So the year of 2020 has started, and that means a whole new slew of games are coming to us fast. And even better yet, JRPGs are coming to us fast. Welcome to the JRPG lineup of 2020. This is a list of JRPGs releasing in English in 2020 or have a pretty high chance of releasing in 2020. So just a couple of things before we get started. One, I am not some random dude throwing you together a list of JRPGs. I'm actually a random dude who plays JRPGs all year round and has his own opinion on each game, and I like to joke around. 2, this list does not have every single JRPG releasing in 2020. These are ones that stuck out the most to me and again have a high chance of releasing this year. Also, I'm not perfect, so it's possible I may have missed a couple of games, so you can let me know all about that. And last, I'm not the greatest speaker in the world, so I probably mispronounced the name of a game or 2 or 3, so if that bothers you, at least you got that warning right about now. And actually, one more last thing. Look at the upload date of this video. If a game was announced to be released in English after that upload date, then obviously it's not on this list. Okay, so now that we got all that good stuff out the way, let's get started with the JRPG lineup of 2020. Got this soda, Remy boys and yours, fast money on slow, no one can control, and I got this. Tales of Arise. The newest Tales of game in the long-running series is coming and it's looking to change things up quite a bit. Not looking like your average Tales of game when it comes to battle. Instead, this one looks to be more action-focused than ever before. Well, the Tales of games have always been action games, but this one especially. Opting for a more Western-style combat, in my opinion, but still keeping that same Tales of aesthetic that we know and love. The story of the game involves two worlds that one is more technologically advanced and the other that is more set in a medieval time period. And to me, that sounds a little bit like one of the major story points of Tales of Xillia. And since I went ahead and compared this to a previous Tales of title, I'll just say right away, you don't need to play the other Tales of games in order to understand this one. The combat looks to give you more control and be more quick and have a more dynamic feeling than we ever have seen in a Tales of game. I'm excited to see how this game is going to play and how the other party members' play style is going to be. I get the feeling that this game is going to be a turning point for the Tales of games moving forward. We might slowly see Tales of morphing into something completely different in the next couple of years. Maybe this will be the best thing to happen to this series, or perhaps the worst thing. Only time will tell. Legend of Heroes: Trails of Cold Steel 4. Now this one I'm not too sure if it's coming out in 2020, but hey, one can dream. So for this entry, you won't be seeing Trails of Cold Steel 4 gameplay on screen. Instead, I'm going to be using Trails of Cold Steel 3 gameplay, as I don't want to spoil myself on Cold Steel 4. Trails of Cold Steel 4 looks to close the current major arc in this series, going on for years and spanning across 8 games. And I hope the conclusion is just as good as the intense journey has been. I have chosen to remain in the dark about Cold Steel 4 as much as possible, but one thing I do know is just like Marvel's Avengers Endgame, everybody is going to show up for this final swan song. The age-old question of do you need to play the previous games in order to understand this one isn't really a question anymore. The Cold Steel games at the very least by themselves need to be played. Yes, there is the Trails in the Sky games and the not yet localized Crossbow games that are a part of this behemoth of a story, but I personally believe you can just play Cold Steel 1 through 3 and get a good amount out of Cold Steel 4. I'm expecting Cold Steel 4 to keep up with the trend of having a good turn-based battle system, an expansive world, and this time around epic boss battles to send us off on a positive note. Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's crazy to think at one point not all that long ago that Final Fantasy VII being remade was a fleeting dream in the ruins of Xanarkand. But now we don't have to wait much longer, as the fulfilled promise will be in our hands shortly. While Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to be broken down to multiple parts and isn't a turn-based RPG, it does still look like an impressive game. Covering the iconic Midgar section of the original in just one full-length RPG is going to be an interesting thing to see unfold. From what I've seen, it looks like Square Enix will have to try really hard to get me to dislike this game. Everything from its graphics to the action-based combat, character redesigns, and what seems to have some new story beats, they all look great to me. I'm hoping I love part 1 of this remake just as much as I loved the Resident Evil 2 remake. Let's just hope it doesn't take like 5 years or so for Square Enix to get out Part 2. Jeez, it cannot be that long. It has to be like 1 year or 2 years max. I mean, they have the character models and everything else made, so now it's just creating the world outside of Midgard. That shouldn't take too long, right? Persona 5 Royal. Persona 5 is getting an enhanced edition with a bunch of new content. Of course, this isn't something new for Atlus and Persona. We saw Persona 3 had FES and Portable, Persona 4 had its enhanced port of Persona 4 Golden on PlayStation Vita, and you know, those other 2 Persona games that Atlus seems to forget. They also got ports in some way, shape, or form. So as it's a norm at this point, Persona 5 is going to stick to that trend. With Persona 5 Royal, the deck is stacked with new features, from extending the story to new characters, new gameplay mechanics, and new ways to traverse dungeons, just to name a few. I think you would be just a little bit crazy to underestimate this enhanced edition as a simple re-release. Persona 5 is one of my favorite JRPGs, so it's no surprise that coming from me that this will be a day one pickup. I'm especially looking forward to the new story related content. I believe some characters didn't get enough time to develop in vanilla Persona 5, and I believe this game is an opportunity to correct what I feel was mishandled. And I'm also looking forward to seeing how the new character Kasumi works her way into the Phantom Thieves and to see what she brings to the table gameplay wise. Fairy Tail. There was a time when I was a huge fan of Fairy Tail. I used to watch the anime each week as it aired, read the manga weekly, collect the Blu-rays, and even at a point I was a mod in a Fairy Tail related message board. Jeez, that was a long time ago. I used to have a real passion for this anime. However, that very same passion has died down quite a bit and I'm no longer the hardcore Fairy Tail fan I once was. But if there's one thing I still love about Fairy Tail from afar is the characters, and that's why I'm interested in this new Fairy Tail game that's an RPG. I'll be honest, I'm not expecting too much from this game, just to be able to control my favorite Fairy Tail characters in a standard turn-based RPG. I always felt that Fairy Tail setting was perfect for the JRPG genre, taking on quests for a guild, traveling the world with comrades, and getting stronger. How could this genre not be a good fit for Fairy Tail? I'll keep a close eye on this one when it releases. ATELIER DUSK Trilogy. I'm going to keep this one simple and put these 3 releases or ports into one entry on this list. Now, I will admit I was never too big on the ATELIER games. In fact, it wasn't until recently that I played an ATELIER game for more than 10 hours. Because the latest entry in the series, ATELIER Rise, taught me culture in a way I just didn't think this series was ever going to have. Okay, all jokes aside, the ATELIER DUSK Trilogy is a set of ATELIER games that are being ported to current platforms. You have ATELIER Aisha, ATELIER Shali, and ATELIER SK and Logi. These games will come together in one package upon the release, and there seems to be a lot of bang for a decent amount of your buck if you enjoy the heavy and fulfilling item creation that the ATELIER series is all about, along with the light-hearted nature of the series. And you can also buy all 3 of the games separate if you want. Now, I have had an interesting and yet not interested relationship with the ATELIER games to a point where I just flat out skipped them for not being my taste. But there was always one game before ATELIER Rise that I was really keen on playing, and that was ATELIER SK and Logi. I always felt that that game would be the ATELIER game that I would sink the most time into, and at the time of the game's original release I just had too many other games to play, so I pretty much just let it go by the wayside. Hopefully this time will be different and I'll be able to finish my second game in the ATELIER series. Ys 9. I've always been a fan of the Ys games, and they have always been fun action RPGs with a ton of exploration, likable cast of characters, and just, well, I don't know any other way to put it, but it just has kick-ass music. Ys 9 is going to change the playing field in this series by making the exploration more dynamic and vertical, allowing you to climb towers and city buildings. Looks like the combat would be your typical Ys affair, but that's not a bad thing. The combat of Ys is always fun and enjoyable, so if it ain't broke, you don't really need to fix it. During combat, you have to hack and slash your enemies while dodging and switching up characters on the fly with the push of a button to take advantage of the weapon weakness of the enemy. Now, Ys 9 does have a story that evolves around 2 main characters that have been traveling together for a couple of games now, or a lot of games now. You don't need to play the other Ys games in order to understand this one. So if you're looking for a fun, engaging action gameplay, you need to look no further than the upcoming Ys 9. LANGRISSER 1 and 2. LANGRISSER 1 and 2 are remakes of the 90s classic. LANGRISSER 1 and 2 will have a branching storyline broken up into chapters along with different routes, so there seems to be a high level of replayability here. The game seems to be your typical tactical RPG experience in battle, which I suppose is expected given these are remakes. As such, you'll be controlling characters on a grid field, attacking with your main units and leveling up, and giving your units new skills to use and changing classes when they're strong enough. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I didn't even know LANGRISSER was a thing until these remakes were announced, and then I downloaded the mobile game, and I like the combat in that. So if this game is that minus the mobile game tactics, like, you know, the gacha game tactics, then I will be more than happy to play these games. I'm always ready to sink my teeth into a good tactical RPG, and I will make room for this one on my gaming schedule when it releases. Tokyo Mirage Sessions Encore. When Tokyo Mirage Sessions was released on the Wii U, I was really impressed with it. A bright and colorful turn-based JRPG crossing the mechanics of Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem was something to behold. You know, sure, it wasn't the crossover game we were expecting at the time, it was still a solid JRPG in my mind, and I'm willing to go through the game again should I have the time for it. I'll be honest with you guys, this game is not on the top of my priority list of games that need to be replayed. If I have the time, I will play it again. This game will be adding new outfits, new attack skills, and new story content, along with speeding up some aspects of battle. This release will probably be the best way to play the game, and I say probably because the game might be coming with censored content that the Western version had upon its initial release in 2014 on the Wii U. And if that's the case, I'm sure it will be unfortunate for a lot of you. Me personally, I found ways to make the game uncensored when I played it on the Wii U, so really, that's the reason why it's not going to be high on my priority list of games to replay. Shin Megami Tensei 5. Going into 2020, information on Shin Megami Tensei 5 that was announced in 2017, mind you, has been little to nothing. So much of nothing, in fact, that we don't even have a character design for the main protagonist. And no, that part in the trailer that showed two people getting devoured, that doesn't count. Atlus is known at this point of announcing games way too early and then releasing those games years after announcement. But we also got confirmation recently that the game is still being worked on, and that's awesome, and I suppose this one will release when it releases, so we'll just have to be patient. I know this game is going to be great as Atlus, which Shin Megami Tensei can do no wrong. Anyway, I'm sure this game is going to be turn-based, feature a weakness system that Shin Megami Tensei is known for, and of course Tokyo is going to need saving, and probably some god that thinks humanity is, you know, just a piece of crap, destroying all their resources, and, you know, the typical SMT spiel. I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm a little bit tired of talking about Shin Megami Tensei 5 at this point, mostly because we have only gotten 2 teaser trailers since this game was announced, and one of those teaser trailers, I'm convinced that was just leftover unused marketing material for Shin Megami Tensei 4. I just want this game to drop. I know I said we should be patient, but it's getting a bit ridiculous. So anyway, I'll move on to the next game before I start ranting. XENOBLADE Chronicles Definitive Edition. One of the best JRPGs released in the modern era of gaming is releasing again on a Nintendo Switch, getting a huge revamp in character models and graphics. XENOBLADE Chronicles Definitive Edition looks to recapture the magic from its original release on the Wii all over again. I loved XENOBLADE Chronicles when I played it back in the day, and I won't lie, it really needs a makeover on current platforms as it looks considerably dated on the Wii. I'm looking forward to all the new gameplay additions and new and restored story content that I hope expands on the original. Trials of Mana. Trials of Mana is a remake of a classic JRPG that never made it overseas until we got that collection of Mana games released in 2019. This is an action RPG that will allow you to choose between multiple characters with different fighting styles. You know, I heard these games were really good when they released, and people would always tell me it's a series that needs to be played, so this one will definitely be on my must-buy radar in 2020 so I can experience the game and story for myself. Arc of Alchemist. Arc of Alchemist is an action RPG made by developer Keppel Heart, a company that I have, well, how do I put this lightly, come to expect a certain subpar standard of quality when it comes to their releases, so I'm expecting a decent action RPG gameplay along with a good amount of characters and some nice artwork. I don't think I'll be getting this one personally, but if you like what you see and what looks to be fun gameplay, then, well, go for it and get it. Me, I'm going to skip this one. GRANBLUE Fantasy RELINK. You know, this game is just like another game on this list that was announced a long time ago, but we actually got a lot of information and gameplay on this one over the years, and it looks to actually be releasing in 2020. GRANBLUE Fantasy Relink is a action RPG based on the famous mobile game of the same name. I personally never got into GRANBLUE Fantasy, but this one looks to change that. And it looks way better than I initially thought. Its battle system was created by Platinum Games, so that's a huge W in my book. It also looks to be like a hunting style game like Monster Hunter and God Eater that you'll be able to invite your friends to take down huge monsters. I really don't see anything I wouldn't like about this game. Action style gameplay, check. Great looking graphics, check. Buttery, smooth, 60 frames per second, double check that. And you'll be able to play with others online? Bruh. I get the feeling that this game is going to be the sleeper hit of 2020, so it will definitely be on my must-play list of games releasing this year. Yakuza Like a Dragon. Alright, I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. I don't care about the Yakuza games. Yeah, that's right, I said it. In fact, in my opinion, in my book, they're not RPGs. Yeah, you know what else? They not even that great of games. Okay, you know what, let me stop. I'm just playing around with that last one, but really, they're just not my type of games. And if you like them, that's cool, you know, no biggie. But you know what, if there's one entry in this series that has the biggest shot of winning me over, it's this one. Primarily because its battle system is going to be turn-based, and a turn-based battle system is something I can always get behind. From what I've seen, this one seems to be more of what you can expect from the Yakuza games at this point. A deep story with a great cast of characters, and some over-the-top and ridiculous moments. So I think if you love Yakuza, you're going to love it even more with this game. As for me, I will be buying this one day one to see what all the hype is about. Alright, there you have it, most of the JRPGs coming in 2020. I gotta say, this is a strong lineup of games, and who knows what will be announced to be released during the year. I know I'm looking forward to Final Fantasy VII Remake, Persona 5 Royal, Tales of Arise, and GRANBLUE Fantasy Relink. Let me know what JRPGs you're looking forward to this year. And hey, if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button, and subscribe to me if you are new and you want to hear somebody like me talk more about JRPGs. That's something I could never stop doing. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll see you guys later. Peace.